Fire continues to burn north of Lakehead. Fire crews now hoping to combine the Delta and Hers fires.
Plus, people living in Costella and near the evacuation zone waiting to be told to evacuate at a moment's notice.
And we're checking in live on Interstate 5 to learn what it will take before Caltrans reopens the interstate. This is KRCR News Channel 7 at 5. The Delta fire burning into the Hers fire tonight as crews work to gain control of that growing fire. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brent Weber.
And I'm Tamara DeMonte. Allison Woods has the night off. This is a map of where those fires are burning. The Delta fire now more than 24,000 acres. Evacuations remain in place for areas north of Lakehead and parts of Trinity County. All areas east of the South Fork of the Trinity River are now under advisory evacuation notice, and areas west of the river remain under mandatory evacuation order. We have complete team coverage of the Delta fire for you tonight. We're starting with KRCR News Channel 7's Brianna Haney, who joins us live with an update from Incident Command with the very latest on this firefight. Brianna.
Hi, I'm at the Incident Command for the Delta fire in McLeod with Information Officer Kevin Tidwell. So what can you tell us about why the Hers fire is being merged with the Delta fire?
Okay, so crews are working on the Delta fire. Obviously, it's a dynamic situation, and crews are working to use the Hers fire and the footprint here and the perimeter as a fuel break for the Delta fire. So crews are in here. They've brought in some firing operations over the last couple days to tie in this northern end into the perimeter of the Hers fire. All this is burned, obviously, and so there's not fuel in this area. So they're working to tie that in to limit the spread eastward of the Delta fire.
Okay, so have they met yet?
Yes, so crews a couple days ago started this firing operation between the Delta and the Hers fire to connect it. They are connected at this point in this area. The fire, due to some wind conditions, did spot across this firing operation, and it's become established just north of their firing operation, just north of Pollard Gulch here in this area. So they are connected. Crews are also working on this southern end, looking at different options on how to tie it in to this lower end of the Hers fire so that they can box it all in and limit that spread to the east.
Okay, so by connecting these two fires, I just want to be clear, will that help them gain containment faster, and will it make it easier to put out?
So it will definitely help with some containment issues. Obviously, there's not a lot of fuel in this area, so we're looking for containment lines and fuel breaks. And with tying it into the Hers fire on this end, it gives us some more buffer, some more control lines on the eastern edge of the Delta fire.
Great. Okay, so today, has there been a lot of spread with the Delta fire?
The weather conditions continue to be hot and dry with some gusty winds, which creates some erratic fire behavior. We've seen some increased fire behavior over the last couple days. The fire has been explosive in its activity. So the fire is primarily moving to that northwestern direction, but it's obviously still burning on both sides of Interstate 5 to the north as well. So crews are working to anchor the southern end, so to limit the spread to the south, as well as really working to protect these communities to the north of the fire on the western side of the I-5 corridor. So that remains one of our priorities, is public safety and protecting those structures, protecting life, protecting infrastructure, and that's what crews are really focusing on, and protecting those areas through putting in dozer line control lines. They're doing a lot of defensive burning operations in those areas to help secure them, to protect those communities.
Great, thank you. Again, that is Kevin Tidwell, Public Information Officer here at the Delta Fire Incident Command in McLeod. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Brianna. There are two roads between the fire's current location and the most northern city in Shasta County, Costella. Those residents are under evacuation advisories. But KRCR News Channel 7's Courtney Kreider says they haven't all left.
Hot embers like these have sparked greater problems for crews fighting for containment on the Delta fire. They've also sparked conversation in small towns like Castella, where residents are waiting on pins and needles at the local and only general store.
People feel at home here, and they come here to share things about their life.
But Friday morning manager Nick DeMarco says people came in with questions, not stories.
Usually everyone comes in the morning because the firefighters are here, and so normally they can talk to someone like you did and get the real story or something that's official.
The rapid growth of the fire has triggered a 24-hour law enforcement presence. Officials say if they are not able to reach some sort of containment soon, the intense rate of the fire growth shows the Delta fire could reach the communities of Sweetbriar and Castella by Sunday. With the constant coming and going of new guests, the small town feels like they're in the know. Even those who chose to evacuate received a visit from deputies and from fire crews, leaving a note to let them know they're there.
The fire crews have done a great job. They've really worked hard.
And while the general store may be running out of Red Bull and possibly fuel, it's their way of helping.
The fire crews are doing their part, so it seems only fair that we should try to help them do their job.
And they say they'll stay open as long as they can, but law enforcement says as long as this fire continues to slope down these ridge lines, people need to be ready to evacuate in a moment's notice. Reporting on the Delta fire, Courtney Kreider, KRCR News Channel 7.
Looking live tonight at the Sundial Bridge in Reading from the Turtle Bay camera, the smoky skies in Reading causing several schools to cancel their classes today. First Alert meteorologist Rob Ellington is here with a look at our First Alert forecast. Rob?
All right, thank you. That's the problem where the fire is burning. It's burning in the Shasta Canyon. You get those down-sloping, down canyon drainage winds that develop in the nighttime hours and through the morning, so that carries all that thick, low-level smoke south into the valley. And you'll notice we have unhealthy readings for parts of Reading and even all the way down into Glenn County, so it's really impacting air quality. We've got our south winds. We've seen those south winds picking up through the afternoon hours. If you look close enough, we're seeing some slight improvements with the smoke. Unfortunately, these south winds are not going to last very long as we head through the next 3 to 4 hours. You'll notice 98 degrees right now at the Reading Airport. Relative humidity values at 11%, so some really dry air in place. Closer to the fire, this is the Antler, so this is south of the Delta fire, but a little bit closer, and seeing those southeasterly winds with gusts of 9 miles per hour. Relative humidity values at 13%. Keep in mind, though, as you head up to some of those ridge tops, it's more of a west-southwesterly wind. So as you head in the lower elevations, south wind, higher elevations, more of a west-southwesterly wind. We also have some clouds moving through, so it's kind of hard to see some of that smoke right now on the visible satellite. But if you look close enough, you can see how some of that smoke is starting to get pushed off to the north thanks to those southerly winds. And as we zoom closer on the radar, this gives you an idea of where the fire is actively burning right now. These are individual smoke plumes from the Delta fire, so both sides of Interstate 5. You'll notice west of Interstate 5 and just off to the east of Interstate 5. Give you an idea, there's Gibson, Fisher, and Sims. So this area of Interstate 5 right now. Back to you.
Thanks, Rob. There will be a community meeting tonight at 6 for the HERS fire and Delta fire. It'll be at the Dunsmuir High School Gymnasium. That's at 5805 High School Way in Dunsmuir. Fire officials will give an overview of the current and expected conditions. Presentation will be followed by a question and answer session. If you can't get to that meeting due to the closure of Interstate 5, you can watch it live on our Facebook page. Just search KRCR News Channel 7.
And there is also a public meeting tonight for the Curlin fire burning near High-Palm. The fire has burned 1,228 acres and is completely uncontained. There are mandatory evacuations for residents along County Road 311 from Lake Mountain Ranch to Dead Man's Point. There will be a public meeting tonight at 6 o'clock at the High-Palm Volunteer Fire Department.
An election in Sweden this weekend may seem worlds away, but it is being watched closely by some in the U.S. Why some believe it could be a sign for what's to come here at home. Next.
Plus, first, we'll head out live to check in on the status of I-5 and what it's going to take to reopen that road. KRCR News Channel 7 at 5 continues next.
You're watching KRCR News Channel.
From the
Community safety matters. You're watching KRCR News Channel 7. Get the facts right.
I-5 remains closed tonight, and Caltrans is saying that they expect that to last through at least Sunday. Our team coverage continues right now with Genevieve Grippo from our sister station in Medford. Genevieve?
Yeah, along the along Road 89 is where I'm at right now on the north side of the fire. Now, if you're coming from the south, you're going to want to take Road 299 as the I-5 remains closed. Caltrans does not have an estimate for when the road will reopen. They say it will be closed at least throughout the weekend. On Sunday, they plan to reevaluate conditions. Now, here on this alternate route, it's at least a 50-mile detour, so drivers should plan at least an hour to an hour and a half delays, according to Caltrans. They say there have been about 4 to 5 accidents along this route since the fire started, so that's caused delays up to 3 hours plus. So definitely plan ahead if you're taking this alternate route. Now, fire is still burning actively along the I-5. Caltrans, there are quite a few improvements that need to be made because of damage, including 3,500 trees that will need to be removed and about 2,000 feet of guardrail that will also have to be repaired. So it is going to take some time for them to get all of those repairs done. So reporting live here in Shasta County on the Delta Fire, I am Genevieve Grippo.
All right, thank you so much, Genevieve. This weekend, voters in Sweden will go to the polls for a general election.
It's the first election that is, since that country took in more than 160,000 refugees in a single year. National correspondent Christine Frizzell takes a look at their election and why some in this country are watching.
It's referred to by some as a model country, with picture postcard views, a booming economy, and universal health care. But just last month in Sweden, more than 100 cars were burned in a mass arson attack. And last year, a terror attack in Stockholm, carried out by a rejected asylum seeker from Uzbekistan, shocked the region. Now, a potential seismic political shift, which most in the country attribute to one issue: immigration.
People are really worried. Some people get really angry with the government and they don't think they take these issues enough seriously.
Julia Kronid is part of the Sweden Democrats, the only political party vowing
at the beginning of and have up in the last 60 over the last 20.
KRCR News Channel 7. Get the facts right.
Welcome back, and as you heard Brianna mentioning earlier, the Delta Fire and the HERS Fire have merged over the last 12 to 24 hours, and this is the latest MODIS heat detection map. This was released at 4 o'clock this afternoon, so just a little over an hour ago, and you'll notice where the Delta Fire is actively burning right now. That's where you see these darker red colors. That's indicating heat that's been picked up in the last 6 to 12 hours, so kind of this ring around the Delta Fire, but even this area just off to the east of Interstate 5. But you'll notice right here, this is the HERS Fire burn scar, and this is the Delta Fire. So you can see where they've crossed over Interstate 5 and have combined. Of course, this right here is the car fire burn scar, but this is where we're seeing a lot of the fire activity right now. It's more of that horseshoe with the Delta Fire. Let's take a look at the visible satellite. This animation's over the last 6 hours. If you look close enough at the beginning of this animation, a lot of smoke in the valley, but once those south winds take off, it gets shoved off to the north. Unfortunately, we've got clouds moving in, so it's blocking a lot of the view. You'll also notice that the Mendocino complex also still putting out quite a bit of smoke through parts of Glenn County and into Butte County. So if you're in Butte County, you're seeing a lot of that smoke coming from the Mendocino complex right now. We'll switch back over to the radar. I've put arrows closer to some of the smoke plumes that are being picked up by the radar. Unfortunately, some of these smoke plumes kind of cross over top of other ones, so they block the view. But you can kind of get an idea where we're seeing active smoke plumes right now with the Delta Fire on both sides of Interstate 5. We'll zoom in a little bit closer. Pollard Flat, Fisher, Gibson area, Valmer's just off to the south, so it kind of gives you that idea of Interstate 5 and where we're seeing the fire actively burning at this time. So how about the winds? These are surface winds. We've got south winds up the valley, and these are pretty much what we're seeing right now. But as you get closer to the Delta Fire, you'll notice it's the transition point. We're already starting to see that west, even northwesterly flow taking over. That's our typical convergence area right there where those winds collide. We see this, of course, a lot in the winter months. And then as we head through the rest of this evening, north and northwesterly winds taking over. Notice the dark blue arrows. That's indicating winds closer to 20 miles per hour. So a little gusty tonight, and that northerly flow will continue through tomorrow morning. So unfortunately, all that smoke getting shoved south down into the valley once again. And those north winds are going to continue all day tomorrow. So actually not expecting the south winds again like we've seen over the last couple of days by the afternoon hours. And again, a lot of that smoke drains through the canyon into the city of Shasta Lake and Redding. So even with light winds, you still get all of that low-level smoke. Highs near, or lows, I should say, near 60 tomorrow morning, 45 in Hayfork, 42 in Alturas. And I'll look at some afternoon highs for tomorrow, right around 93 in Weaverville. Off to the east, 87 at Bernie, 84 degrees in Alturas. For most of the valley, we will run a little bit cooler tomorrow after hitting 100 degrees today in the Redding area. 96 for a high tomorrow, 94 in Red Bluff. Corning right around 94, 93 in Oroville. In your 7-day forecast for Chico, still have that cooling trend coming in by next work week. You'll notice even by Tuesday, quickly starting to drop off for Chico, and actually going with 79 for a high by next Thursday for Chico. Redding, your 7-day forecast, 96 tomorrow, 97 on Sunday, so still a very hot and dry weekend. 95 on Monday, but look at the drop off. 89 by Tuesday, 84 on Wednesday, low 80s on Thursday. Still going with dry conditions through the next 7 days, but at least we'll get some improved recovery for all these fires. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Rob. As the North State faces another devastating fire, we are making certain that you have some tools to prevent the next one, what you need to know so your burn pile doesn't turn into a wildfire. Straight ahead on KRCR News Channel 7 at 5. Not the time to...
That's buyers.
KRCR News Channel 7, alerting you to dangerous weather. Fight Fire Friday is sponsored by Clean Right, Build Right.
Wildfire season is not the time to conduct burns on your property, but November is just around the corner, and you then will need to be aware of the rules when it comes to obtaining a burn permit.
Here in Redding, typical dooryard burning or open burning is allowed during the months of April and November only.
A free burn permit allows you to have a fire up to 4 feet in diameter to consume unwanted vegetation during those months when we don't have extreme weather conditions. Fire Marshal Craig Whitner explains the other type of burn permit commonly issued.
And also if you have larger acreage or a larger property with more vegetation to remove, we can issue what's called a mitigation permit. That is a feed permit. I believe it's still $16 for the permit. It requires an inspection on site by a fire inspector. We can issue a permit and then essentially write a prescription for your needs, to fit your needs and ability to control a fire. And that way, if you have a mitigation permit, then you can essentially start burning in November and have all winter up until April to burn for those folks who have more vegetation that needs to be removed.
And be aware, burning outside of the allowed times, you can and will be cited.
Typically, folks are pretty aware of what the rules are, but they're come up with a multitude of excuses, and typically they're not trying to do anything harmful. They want to get rid of some vegetation, or perhaps they don't have enough room in their green waste bin, or perhaps they just feel like burning. We don't enjoy writing citations to our citizens, but it's an easy $250, and nobody typically has that to throw away on a citation.
Now, if you do see someone conducting a burn outside of the allowed timeframes, the Redding Fire Department asks that you please call them and report it immediately. They respond to every single smoke call that they get. Well, we are inching closer to Election Day, and the gloves are coming off. What President Obama is saying to get voters to the polls. That's next on KRCR News Channel 7 at 5.
It is
Evacuation notice. Areas west of the river, Delta fire now more than...
The Delta fire is burning into the Hers fire tonight as fire crews work to gain control of this growing fire. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tamara DeMonte.
And I'm Brent Weber. Allison Woods is off this evening. The Delta fire now more than 24,000 acres. Evacuations remain in place for areas north of Lakehead and parts of Trinity County. All areas east of the South Fork of the Trinity River are now under advisory evacuation notice. Areas west of the river remain under mandatory evacuation orders. We begin our team coverage of the Delta fire with KRCR News Channel 7's Brianna Haney, who shows us how the fire has impacted the Dog Creek Road area.
As of right now, I'm on Dog Creek Road. This is off the Volmers exit of Interstate 5. Now, as of right now, the fire crews have asked me not to go down this road alone because it is still an active fire area. But from right here, let me show you what we can see. Now, behind me, you could see that there is a crew working on some power lines. I don't know if there is power in this area right now, but it does appear that they are working on some of those to either repair them or get them back working. And along the road, you can see that the guardrail has been damaged. This is on the ground about as far as you can see down the road. There's just some stumps left, and then the metal part is resting on the ground. Now, I want to get a little bit further down the road to kind of let everyone know if any homes have been damaged. I know I've been speaking to some people in the area that say that their homes are fine right now, but the fire is still active, and it's definitely hard to predict what it's going to do. So for the meantime, I'm going to see if I'm able to get any further down Dog Creek Road. And just want to let you know that I'm going to continue covering this area, finding out more information to give those who have evacuated the most up-to-date information on their areas. And this is Brianna Haney reporting from Dog Creek Road off Interstate 5.
And right now, let's take a live look over Redding tonight from our Mercy Skycam. That smoke you can see creating dangerous air quality for much of us here in the North State. First Alert meteorologist Rob Elvington tracking the latest conditions for us. Rob?
You know, that's been the problem over the last month and a half. The Carr fire, the Hers fire, the Delta fire, they're all burning right by that Shasta Canyon. So all that smoke settles in the late night hours and through the overnight, and it just funnels right down that canyon into the Northern Valley. And that was the case this morning, and it'll again happen tonight, with even stronger northerly winds tonight into your Saturday. Air quality conditions, and these are hourly updates, so these change quite a bit. But you'll notice right now in Redding, Mount Shasta City, at unhealthy. Glenn County, this site was closer to unhealthy about an hour ago. And keep in mind, these are hourly observations, so they change quite a bit. Now, as you head to the lower elevations closer to the Delta fire, it's still a southerly wind. But as you head up to some of those steeper slopes, some of those ridge tops, you're going to find more of a west and southwesterly wind. But 92 degrees at the latest update at Antlers. This is south of the Delta fire, so of course as you get a little bit closer to the Delta fire, it'll be a little bit different. Gusting to 7 miles per hour, relative humidity value still at 13%. And again, we've got that south wind up the valley, so it's actually pushed a little bit of the smoke north through the afternoon hours and into the evening, but the south wind, it's not going to last. And you can see the active plumes that the radar's been picking up over the last couple of hours. These little individual areas, these are the smoke plumes, and the wind, of course, carrying it off to the east because of those westerly winds aloft. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Well, several schools were actually closed and students sent home in Shasta County today. The air quality so bad the events were being canceled and businesses even shutting down. KRCR News Channel 7's Julia Avery spent the day talking to people around Redding being affected by this heavy, thick smoke. She joins us now live from the Sundial Bridge. And Julia, how does it look out there right now?
Tamara, whether you went outside or not, you could smell the smoke here today in Redding. I know when I woke up, I could smell it from inside my apartment before I even left. It was so thick, but the scene that I'm seeing right here is completely different. I was just in this spot about 2 hours ago, and I couldn't see about 100 yards in front of me, and now it appears that the smoke has dissipated a bit, which is great news, but earlier today, it was so thick that kids were sent home from school. A haze of smoke as children leave early from school.
We have, students who live, literally a block away from us. There is no real advantage for them to go home, but we also have students that live, 10, 20, 30 miles away from here in areas where the air quality is much better. And certainly by releasing them, those parents that maybe live nearby could have the opportunity and the choice if they wanted to say, well, we're going to go to a friend's house, we're going to go somewhere where the air quality is better.
All the outdoor activities available in the North State look like ghost towns.
We tried walking around in the Arboretum, but it was too smoky.
Orchard Nutrition Center's annual health fair is getting a few changes to avoid the smoke.
We normally do a barbecue here and sample out that, but we're not going to be able to do that this time. We were planning a kiddie carnival, but we're not going to be able to do that as well.
The event will go on with free samples and supplements inside, including supplements to help you with the effects of smoke.
My eyes, my throat, my nose, it's all...
Even the man who spends every day working over smoke needs a mask. You work standing over smoke all the time. You'd think you'd be used to it.
Mm-hmm. And today was just one of those, it was way worse than usual.
Something longtime Reading residents say they've never seen before.
I've been here for almost 20 years, or actually starting my 20th year, and I can't recall when we've shut down school early for something like this.
Never seen anything like it in Reading in 40 years.
Now, I just took this guy off so that you could hear me right now. I was wearing it today, and doctors say that if you don't wear it and you are exposed to the smoke, you will likely experience signs of sickness, headache, runny nose, fatigue, all of it. And that's something that you definitely don't want. So they say either wear this mask or stay inside until all of this passes. Reporting live in Reading, Julia Avery, KRCR News Channel 7.
Thank you so much, Julia. And the city of Reading has released new information to help homeowners to rebuild after the car fire. The step-by-step guides are designed to help fire victims navigate the rebuilding process as easily as possible. All are available on the joint Shasta County City of Reading Fire Recovery website, shastareadingrecovers.org. Click on the rebuilding button and you'll be able to find printed copies starting next week at the Permit Center at Reading City Hall on Cypress Avenue.
Well, thus far, only a few structures have been confirmed destroyed due to the Delta fire. Maybe as many as a dozen more, including some homes, were saved because of 16 Butte County firefighters returning home from the battle lines of another fire. And those 16 were at the right place at the right time, just as the Delta fire was starting. Here's KRCR News Channel 7's Jerry O'Lennon.
Highway 99 never looked so good for 16 Cal firefighters whose engines rolled into Fire Station 41 Friday afternoon after 21 straight days on the front lines of 2 fires.
It's going to be home.
Yeah. After working 19 consecutive days battling the HERS fire, the crews headed home on Wednesday and were on I-5 near Lakehead when they spotted another fire on Vollmer and Delta roads. And they realized right then and there that their trip back home would be delayed. Yes, these men and one woman were literally the first responders of first responders for the Delta fire.
We actually came across the Delta fire right as it was starting, so we pulled off the side of the road and loaded up and tried to fight the fire.
Their quick action saved about a dozen structures, including some homes, as they aggressively attacked the blaze.
Based off of the water we had left in our tanks and the hose we had left on our fire engine, to try to attack the actual fire and put out the fire so that all those houses would be protected. And it worked.
Within 5 minutes, more help would arrive, but by then it was too late to stop its spread.
It picked up really rapid when we got there. We were doing our best efforts, but it still passed us all up and took off.
But not before they save several homes, worthy of a hero's welcome home. In Butte County, Jerry O'Lennon, KRCR News Channel 7.
Incidentally, Jerry tells us all of those firefighters spoke in unison and that they were grateful that they could save those houses from being lost, even though it meant more hard work and more time away from their families.
Straight ahead tonight, we'll have a live update on what the closure of I-5 is meaning for traffic along 89 and what it will take for that road to finally reopen again.
Later, we'll take a look at a new push for criminal justice reform and how some congressional leaders are hoping to address immigration.
Closed tonight.
Weather. This portion of the news sponsored by Reiner Slaughter, McCartney, and Frankel Law Offices.
There is a community meeting tonight for the Curlin fire that's burning near Hyampom in Trinity County. That has burned over 1,200 acres. Still no containment on that fire. Mandatory evacuations for residents along County Road 311 from Lake Mountain Ranch to Dead Man's Point. A public meeting will be starting about 15 minutes at the Hyampom Volunteer Fire Department.
I-5 remains closed tonight, and Caltrans is saying that they expect that to last through at least Sunday. Our team coverage continues tonight with Genevieve Grippo, from our sister station in Medford. Good evening, Genevieve.
I'm currently on Road 89. This is the alternate route that drivers are instructed to take if they are coming from the north side of the fire. If they're coming from the south, they're going to want to take Road 299. Now, Caltrans says that drivers should definitely expect delays. They're saying between 1 and 3 hours, depending on which direction you're coming from. However, it could be even longer than that. Since the Delta fire started, they've had about 4 to 5 accidents, which have postponed delay times to 3 hours plus. So definitely be expecting those delays if you're coming through this area. Now, the I-5 does continue to be closed. It will be closed through the weekend. Caltrans says they are planning on re-evaluating conditions on Sunday, but they have a lot of work to do. The fire is still actively burning in that area. So some of the work that they do have to do along the I-5, possibly removing about 3,500 trees, which have been coded as dangerous, so they'll have to take those out, as well as about 1,500 to 2,000 feet of guardrail that will also have to be repaired. We will continue to keep you updated as road conditions continue to change, but for now, reporting on the Delta fire live from Shasta County, I'm Genevieve Grippo.
There is a community meeting also going on tonight at 6 for the HERS and Delta fires. It's at the Dunsmuir High School Gymnasium, located at 5805 High School Way in Dunsmuir. Fire officials will give an overview of current and expected fire conditions. The presentation to be followed by a question and answer session.
And the big concern will be those gusty winds through the next couple of hours, but we actually expect stronger north and northwesterly winds later this evening through the overnight hours and into your Saturday. So, of course, that's going to push a lot of that smoke south back into the valley again, but it may actually push parts of the fire over areas that have already burned. The details coming up right after this break.